You know those meteorites that you've heard about on the news recently? Those are actually King James only fanatics' spaceship experiments. Make sure you click on the link below this video where I have a written transcript of everything I'm saying, because I have some important links in there that you need to see. Um, all the meteorites we've heard about on the news, these are actually the new King James only space fleet experimenting. These King James only fanatics tried to make their ships look like crosses, leather-bound King James Bibles, and WWJD bracelets, and one was made to look like a giant Peter Ruckman face. Zach Knight is using his King James only Jesuits to downplay that a very important trial with him, the Antichrist, against me has been delayed. The trial delayed is about the contract that Zach alleges I have violated because I won't give him brain-to-brain loving. To cause a distraction, he's instructed his King James-only Jesuits to attack the world with their space fleet so that the world will not realize that Zach cannot come up with a good rebuttal to my latest videos. Therefore, he's been playing sick and not coming to court. Now he wants the world to just forget about this trial, so he leads his King James only Jesuits to make a major distraction by having them attack the world with their spaceships. Distractions to downplay Zach's delaying of this trial is something Jesuits do a lot. They did this in January 2000 when I asked Brent Spiner to publicize his court case against Laurie McBride on Los Angeles News in January 2000. I asked him to do this when I spoke to him through my wiretapped phone. The next day, an Alaska Airlines jet headed towards Seattle, where I lived at the time, crashed head down into the Pacific Ocean near Los Angeles. That's not a coincidence, because he was going to put this case on LA News, and all on board died. This event was so horrific, it eclipsed any other news, exactly what the Jesuits wanted. This horror served to downplay Brent's newscast over Los Angeles News that he had taken Jesuit Laurie McBride to court for her crimes against me. The Jesuits did not want the world to know that Brent Spiner had brought Laurie McBride to court to defend me against her. So they slammed a jet head down into the Pacific Ocean, killing all on board. I have a video for that on the link below here. But just click on the link for the written transcript. It's right in there. This served to eclipse the news coverage of Brent's court case against Laurie McBride in 2000. This favorite Jesuit strategy to create a major news story, a headline maker, to deflect attention away from something the Jesuits want to downplay, happens a lot. So you may say, how do you know that this is the reason for all these so-called meteorites? Jesus told me that this is what Zach Knight was up to, and he suggested that I bring it up in a video. Actually, it makes sense to anybody who's been following this case that Zach has brought against me. Zach has called in sick for over a week now and hasn't showed up in court. He doesn't want the world focused on this case about his right to have brain-to-brain loving with me, because my latest videos about this case have devastated him. Zach Knight and the Jesuits cannot deal with my latest videos, so they've developed a King James only space fleet and attacked Russia with it on February the 15th. This attack appeared a major threat at first, but because we were following it, with our Church of Gale, but the guidance system on their ships failed because these King James only followers thought it a good idea to program all the flight controller software with King James Bible code, so their spaceship over Russia crashed to Earth and all died on board. Lots of people were hurt in Russia. The Jesuit news media is telling the world that these events were a meteor shower. What a lie, to fool the world. I guess they have to come up with something. They can't admit what really happened. These meteors, quote unquote, are Zach's attempt to downplay the court case he's brought against me because he can't deal with some of the issues I brought up in my latest videos. In fact, with this video I'm making right now, I can prove that he's the true leader of the King James only Jesuits, who have attacked me and my men, even trying to kill us, which means he violated his peace treaty with us the first time the King James only Jesuits attacked us, sometime around December 2012, even before we destroyed the Gale android. So because he's already violated the peace treaty by attacking us in secret through his King James only Jesuits, I am under no obligation to honor him with brain-to-brain loving. He says I breached the contract because I signed an agreement that had a secret message embedded into the signature line, which he says I knew about. I certainly did not. And that it's this said that I gave him permission to give for brain-to-brain loving. But why would I desire to give him brain-to-brain loving when he has attacked my health, my men, and even threatened our lives with his King James only Jesuits? I am not obligated to make love to one who wants me dead. You know, I'm a very forgiving person, and that's why when he offered himself along with the Jesuits to kamikaze himself into the Gale android and apologized for giving me my yeast infection, I told him it was nothing. But actually, this yeast infection would have killed me by now if Jesus Christ did not intervene and put me on Seroquel. In fact, right now, as the Seroquel removes yeast from my intestines, the yeast escape to my shoulders and cause all sorts of symptoms. This is a deadly germ. I have had this systemic yeast infection for years, which Zach has used to help him direct my brain cell conversations, causing me at times to believe his lies. I am very fortunate to meet with Jesus on a regular basis because Jesus corrects Zach Knight's lies and puts me back on track. One lie Jesus corrected was my belief that the King James Bible is the only English Bible not taken from Roman Catholic manuscripts. But Jesus assured me that the Bibles these King James only fanatics condemn as being from Roman Catholic sources, such as the New American Standard, NIV, and New Living in English, are fine with him and are not Roman Catholic Bibles. Jesus said, Gail, don't be like the King James only people. They're saying that you and Brent are satanic and they see a devil under every rock. I'm getting sick of this. In fact, Vladimir Putin's wife, Larissa, died of a systemic yeast infection in 2000. The yeast infection that I have is beyond the scope of present-day medicine. So I meet with Jesus, and he advises me and my husband, Brent Spiner, a licensed MD, about my medical treatment. Jesus told me he created Seroquel just for me, but even with the Seroquel, I still suffer yeast symptoms. The Seroquel is working because I've lost most of my massive food allergies. This yeast sabotages the immune system, causing massive allergies and other immune system disorders. So in July 2012, when I began Seroquel, the yeast was strongest in my brain. After my brain, it had infected my heart, liver, gallbladder, stomach, and intestines. I always thought my guts or the intestines was my most infected area because that's where the infection started. But in July 2012, my brain had the strongest yeast concentration. And that's the reason Seroquel hit that first, because Seroquel goes where the germ is strongest and hits there and then works, and then once it eliminates that area, it moves to a new area. Because my guts were so saturated with the germ went upwards, attacking and infiltrating all the major organs above the guts to the point that they became more infected than my guts. I would never want Zach as a lover, because even though I forgave him, if not for Jesus, this yeast would have killed me by now. Currently, the Seroquel is purging my intestinal cells of yeast, so they are running away from the Seroquel, looking for new homes in other parts of my body. The Seroquel bonds with the yeast and then passes the yeast bonded to it out of the body. Jesus has given me strict orders to only take the medicines and supplements he has prescribed for me, a multivitamin, Advil or painkillers, allergy medicine, and Seroquel. That's it. And that's all I'm on under divine orders from the divine physician. The Seroquel has been working from July 2012 to to now from my head on down. It's now down to my intestines, so some intestinal yeast escape from the Seroquel into my joints, causing joint inflammation in my shoulders. My guess is that after the guts are cleared, Seroquel will eventually clear yeast out of my joints. Guess who gave me this killer yeast? Zach Knight. And he thinks I'd want him to make love to me? Just because I'm a forgiving person doesn't mean I want him sexually. In fact, this yeast almost killed me in 2009. I felt like I was ready for the hospital, but that's like another video, and I'm not going to go there right now. I've had this infection so long, I've actually developed a strong allergy to yeast toxin, which also exacerbates the treatment. Killing this yeast actually helps it, because this yeast, when it dies, releases its toxins, which it then eats. The toxin that the yeast releases when it dies feeds any other yeast around it, acting like yeast fertilizer. So therefore, traditional medical treatments don't work because they kill the yeast, which causes it to release toxin and causing the yeast to rebound and increase because this yeast eats its poop, basically. Even Chinese medicine herbs that help to pass the yeast out of the body without killing it have ingredients in them that feed the yeast. So they don't work either. Seroquel passes the yeast out of the body and does not contain ingredients that feed the yeast, so it's the best form of treatment. This yeast, I've discovered, eats just about everything. So it's really hard to deal with it. Jesus said he created Seroquel just for me. I suspect that Zach Knight may be using his brain control technology on some of these King James only criminals, and that he and Dr. Peter Ruckman meet secretly to destroy me and my reputation and to brainwash the King James only people who follow Dr. Ruckman. So because of Zach's brain control over the King James only Jesuits, Zach is their true leader and directs their activities, which explains all the strange meteors we've been having lately. Have you noticed these all started after I brought an onslaught of videos against Zach to defend myself against his charges that I owe him brain-to-brain sex? He doesn't want people to hear what I've said in my latest videos, so he leads his King James only Jesuits to attack the world with their space fleet, even directing them to commit suicide with the space fleet to distract the world away from this trial he's got going with me. Jesus is using Vladimir Putin to maintain my computer and has told me that he actually goes into Vladimir's mind and guides Vladimir as he works on my computer. Therefore, because Jesus obviously approves of Vladimir Putin, he would never direct anyone to attack Vladimir Putin's Russia. You must remember that the evil Russia in the future who will attack Israel in Ezekiel 38 and 39 will not be Vladimir Putin's Russia, because Vladimir's a born-again Christian and he's not going to be here then. Dr. Ruckman knows that Jesus Christ meets with me, and it was Jesus who told me to abandon King James Bible worship. These King James only fanatics claim that the King James Bible is the only Bible not corrupted by the Roman Catholic Church. So to defend the King James Bible, which they say is the only Bible not corrupted by Rome, they work alongside the future Roman Catholic Pope Zach Knight, the Antichrist, to defend the King James Bible against Rome. And now they attack the world with their space fleet like a bunch of Roman Catholic inquisitors from the Inquisition? To be this stupid, inconsistent, and hypocritical, you'd have to be under some sort of brain control. I think Zach Knight has the ability to take those who are prone to idol worship and to use mind control on them to twist that idol worship into a worship of him, the Antichrist. He definitely plans to incorporate King James Bible worship into a worship of himself in the tribulation. See my comments about Revelation 19. Check the link below. Dr. Ruckman thinks he's smarter than Jesus. To follow Dr. Ruckman over Jesus in the matter of God's word, you'd have to be under Zach Knight's brain control. It certainly is not the spirit of Jesus Christ to crash spaceships into Russia. I think Zach Knight has used brain control on the King James only fanatics to cause them to create a space fleet for the King James Bible. See 2 Thessalonians 2:10-12. Zach Knight Jesuits murdered Pope John Paul II, and we didn't even know it. And for years we were dealing with his robot the whole time. Zach is very clever.